Hello, I'm Chris Dring.
I'm James Batchelor.
And you're listening to Rare Replay. Can we talk about that jingle?
I think we should just leave it be.
I don't know how that's ended up in the show. But you're telling me that it's the best thing about it.
Why not? Why not? It works. It gets the show started. You know exactly what foot you're on when you start off.
Two really bad singers talking about rare games. That's what that jingle says.
That's our elevator pitch.
Okay. Well, welcome back to Rare Replay. We last week spoke about Perfect Dark, which was really great.
It was. It's a good start to the series.
But we're going to keep starting strong. We're not going to do RC Pro Am 2 yet. We're going to go straight in with one of the greatest 3D platformers of all time, Banjo Kazooie.
Yes, although I do have a few things to say about this.
Yeah, you're wrong. Even though your criticisms are very mild, you are wrong. Banjo Kazooie came out in 1998.
1998? I think it's 1998.
Yeah, well, the thing is...
That's what our guest told us, so I'm just going to take it. Like, given that he worked on the game, I'm guessing that he's right.
The reason why I don't know the exact release date, July 1998, the reason why I don't know the exact release date is because I didn't get my N64 until Christmas 98. And this is the reason why, this is what I want to remind people, is that I wasn't very good at games. I wasn't even really into them back in the Super Nintendo. I had to play with my brother. He was a lot better than me. We could play together. We played co-op games. And I played Donkey Kong Country. I played it every single day with my brother. And I loved the minecart stuff. I was a 10-year-old, 11, 12-year-old boy, really loving that kind of stuff. And then my mum and dad turned to both of us and say, right, we're going to get you a new games console for Christmas. Which one do you want? And I had no idea what ones were even on the market. That's how little I knew about games at the time. My brother, he wanted the new wrestling game, and they were on both consoles. So Mum said to me, do you want an N64 or a PlayStation? And I said, whatever one Donkey Kong is on. And Donkey Kong was on neither. But Mum did a bit of research, and she found out that the people that made Donkey Kong made Banjo Kazooie. So actually, Banjo Kazooie is the reason why I got an N64. So for starters, I love that. Because I got it at Christmas '98, the first few months of that year, you need to remember what games on the N64 at that point in time. You've just bought an N64 2 years into this life cycle. So within 2 months of owning that machine, I got The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, Super Mario 64, GoldenEye, and Banjo Kazooie, and and there's Lilac Wars and Turok and all these other wonderful games that are out on the machine as well. And you know what? Banjo Kazooie stood up. Banjo Kazooie to my 13-year-old self, and by the way, I acknowledge now that I am wrong, but the 13-year-old self, that was the best one. And Zelda may have actually been the best one, but Banjo Kazooie was definitely number 2 at the time. And the reason why people say to me, whenever you catch me on the wrong day, I'll tell you Banjo Kazooie is better than Mario 64. I know it's not better than Mario 64, but Mario 64 is so much like a big fairy tale game. It's the Pixar Mario games of the video game world. It's very clean, beautifully done, wonderfully created, very It's a bit mad, but it's done in a very structured way, and it's everything's perfect about it. Banjo Kazooie is an Arctic madness. It is absolutely crazy. I mean, the game, you've got a bird in your backpack, and I have no idea why the bird's in the backpack. It's not just been put in the backpack for the sake of the adventure. The bird is asleep in the backpack, not in the bed.
It lives in the backpack.
It lives in the backpack, which has holes clearly in the base of it, so it can walk out. I never understood this. There's a mole that doesn't recognise, and there's a witch that rhymes everything she says, and sometimes
really badly.
Sometimes really badly. There are moments where I think, that's pretty good, but most of the time really badly.
I having back in the day, I used to write a little bit of poetry, nothing like mad. Like I used to like the Roald Dahl sort of poetry, so I used to watch her rhymes coming up and thinking, that doesn't work. The rhythm doesn't match there. I was quite critical of the rhymes. I still am now. I really shouldn't be.
Well, and sometimes the amount of words isn't quite right. But but it reminds, as I say, if Mario still was the Pixar, if it was the Toy Story, then Banjo Kazooie was the Shrek. And Shrek isn't as good as Toy Story, but it has a certain madness to it, which it also keeping with the Shrek analogy, it doesn't. It's no shame in the fact that it's got if you go down to the woods, today is the music. It's taking this sort of fairy tale notion and putting it into. It's a Nickelodeon game. It's so.
Well, the title theme, like, was it in between the banjo strums? You hear na 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 na. It's like, right, okay, that's the level we are. We are at playground taunting here. This is going to be great.
Yeah, it was, and I don't really like sarcastic birds, but I just remember I actually played. The reason why I talk so highly about Banjo Kazooie, I'm not just saying it was great for the time, because it was great for the time. It's great today.
And it is great today. This is that for all my complaints, and you know me, I have many. The biggest thing about the thing was I missed out on Banjo Kazooie back in the day. I think we rented it. Me and my cousin rented it for a weekend. I think we got as far as Treasure Trove Cove, and thought, foolishly back in the day, thought, you know what, this is not as good as Super Mario 64. We'll stop. And then
that's right, by the way.
Okay,
you weren't foolish. You were completely spot on.
I don't know.
It isn't as good as Super Mario 64, but very few things are.
Yeah, it's true. But then when it came out on 360 and they did the HP re-release, I thought, you know what, I'll download it. I downloaded the trial, and I thought, I'll give it a go, because I never gave it a go in the end. And instantly, this is everything I miss about 90s video games, specifically 90s platformers. I miss having a hub world that you explore to find each of the levels, rather than a menu where you select the next one. I miss having levels where the object is not to get from A to B, or to fulfill some sort of objective where to fulfill some sort of requirements where the level resets itself next time you go in. It was, right, here's a level, and within here are 10 things that you need to find, plus 5 little midgets, plus 100 notes, plus a move, plus 2 health expanders. It's like, right, go find it. And there was no hint, no instruction, and I just kind of missed that structure. That structure's gone now. Most 3D platforms nowadays, not that there are many, are more akin to the Lego games, I find, in that you're just going through a level, beating up enemies, and trying to get to a goal. Whereas this was, no, you have to explore, you have to experiment, and I really missed that.
I missed that too. I do think the genre killed itself. I know a lot of people talk about this situation you're referring to there. Banjo Kazooie was a great game, and Mario 64 was a great game. Banjo Tooie, which again we'll come on to another point, but if I use it as talk about the genre as a whole, Banjo Tooie had a lot more moves and more characters, and became a little and too big, and it was a bit too dense for a platform game. Donkey Kong 64 is the worst example of a 3D platformer. Definitely. Although I liked Donkey Kong 64 before I was getting sent loads of letters accusing me of being an idiot. I liked Donkey Kong 64, but it was very big and too many moves, and it became too bloated, and it was just too much. And the reason why Mario has stood the test of time is because ultimately you're one character that has a handful of moves, and then the genius of Miyamoto and the guys at Nintendo and who the people who develop it now is that they build a game around those handful of moves. Banjo Kazooie was the same. He had a handful of moves and he built it around it. As the genre moved on, people started building challenges. How do we overcome this challenge? Oh, well, let's give Banjo a new move. Let's give Banjo a move where he can do this all of a sudden, so he can come up with this. Donkey Kong 64, I did feel some of the moves were created purely to solve a couple of challenges in a level, and then they were dropped to get in those moves. You didn't even need to go back. You didn't need to go back to them. And that genre, and no wonder in the end, people got fed up with it, and that's the problem with bigger, better. Sometimes is the prime example 3D platformers of how bigger is not better. But Banjo Kazooie got it right. It's the best example of it. If you want to play a 3D rare platformer, although we've been told to go back to Grab by the Ghoulies, so I don't think it is a 3D platformer in the same way, but we're looking forward to giving that one a go, because neither of us played it. But I think when it comes to 3D platformers, Banjo Kazooie is the best one. It was the only rare game before the recent Rare Replay ever to get to number 1 in the charts. I mean, that's a big. You think about how big Rare are. It sold something like 4 million copies globally. It's a huge success. It was a wonderful game. There's only ever been, unless you count the Game Boy Advance stuff and Banjo Pilot and stuff like that, there's only really been 3 core games in that franchise.
And even then, only 2 of them are on this original formula.
No, yeah, exactly.
Nuts and Bolts was a massive departure, and almost feels like another game with a Banjo skin. But we'll talk about on that review.
Yeah. So I think we should probably stop us rambling on about. Unless you want to talk about it, because you've found it pretty challenging, haven't you?
I found it very challenging, but I think that's largely due to my lack of ability. The thing is, I am absolutely loving it, as difficult as it is, and it has driven me to distraction. I actually, Mad Monster Mansion drove me mental, because I just couldn't find where all the jiggies were. There were a couple of issues, like was it when you hit a switch and a gate opens and you've got a timer. There's quite a few instances in the game where the timer starts before you're given control back, and you have to really kind of glitch and jump and whatever to try and get there, or you have to manually hold the camera, because 90s camera angles, as you said the other day, they were great for the time, but go back to them today and they're a real to work around.
Yeah.
But I'm still loving it. I mean, like I say, like you'd think going back to a game that's nearly 20 years old, you'd expect to go in and thinking, no, I'll play a little bit of this, enough to talk about it on the show, and then I'll go. I am still determined. We've now recorded this episode. I'm still determined to finish off Rusty Bucket Bay, Click Clock Wood, and then the grand finale.
Click Clock Wood. Oh, and the music in that game is, sometimes I turn it on just to hear the music. I met Grant Kirkhope, who did the music for Banjo Kazooie, at. I also got an email from Chris Sutherland, who did the voices of Banjo and Kazooie, which was quite exciting. But I met Grant Kirkhope at E3 this year, and he said to me, I got Andy Robinson, who's the guy who's working on ukulele at the moment. He's their writer guy. He was with Grant, who Grant is also working on ukulele. If you don't know what ukulele is, it is basically a group of old Rare guys trying to recreate Banjo Kazooie with a lizard and a bat, which I'm all over, quite frankly. I'm all over that. But he was there, and Andy introduced me to Grant Kirkhope, and Grant said, "Oh, you're Chris. Oh, it's nice to meet you, Chris. My name's Grant. I sort of do music. I know exactly who you are. You made the greatest soundtrack of all time.
You're the reason I'm humming Mumbo's theme as I drive to work, which incidentally has happened this week.
You're the reason why we did a rock version of your GoldenEye introduction theme tune." Anyway,
so we're going to take a quick musical break. I think it's fairly obvious to Banjo fans what it will be, and then we're going to introduce this week's guest. Okay, we are joined by Ed Bryan. Ed, please tell us a little about yourself and how you worked on Banjo Kazooie.
So I left college in '95. I graduated in '95, and I applied to a few places, and I got a job at Rare. And then I think Banjo really didn't start properly until sort of spring of '97, something like that, or just before Christmas, perhaps the previous year. So before that, I was on it was what was called Project Dream, that is now in a legendary status according to Twitter and things. So I started there in July '95, and then went onto that team, and then we sort of made Banjo, kind of thing.
That's like one of the most iconic platformers of the age, and they just sort of made it. I like that.
But you've got to remember, I think at the time, you obviously, you enjoy making something. Everyone thinks you're making something great, and you put but it's easy now in hindsight to look back and go, well, it did very well. But at the time, I think you were looking at games like Mario 64, and it's you just think, can we compete with that sort of thing? And obviously they've just done, a lot of the team, the people I was working with had just come off Donkey Kong Country. So it's like, there was a certain sort of feeling in the air that we were going to be doing very well on stuff, the company as a whole. Cool. On the sort of day-to-day stuff, you were having great fun, but I think it's easy now to look back and go how we know how well it did and how, everyone really enjoyed it. But I don't know if I thought at the time, in those terms. But obviously you always hope you want to be making the, we always put in the best thing, the best work we could.
Yeah, of course.
You've got an important question.
I do. Chris has got some more valid questions to pin to you. But first of all, I never played it back in the day. I've only recently been playing it on the 360 re-release, and then obviously through Rare Replay. And something's been bothering me since the start of the game. I'm not sure if you can answer. Why is Kazooie such a dick?
I can't possibly comment. I don't know. I always thought that was just kind of, that she was just the kind of what's the phrase? Foil to banjo. Is that the right sort of phrase?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's just weird because she just insults everyone that's trying to teach you new
Yeah, well,
moves.
yeah. That's all right. I think that's Greg and Tim's it's going through. Yeah, I don't know. I think they just kind of they sort of I don't know. I guess it's kind of quite stereotypical, but it was kind of Banjo's always this kind of slightly dim-witted and stuff, and Kazooie was the sort of opposite to that. So she was snidey to everyone. She was sarcastic to everyone, and even the player sometimes. I mean, I started playing it again on the N64 with the children. Yeah, she doesn't have a good word, does she? Really, to say to anybody?
No, she's been really unnecessarily unfair to this mole who's giving. Having said that, the mole is holding your moves to ransom.
Yeah,
because I think it's the fast sneakers or the fast shoes. You find them in a level, and it's like, right, those are clearly going to make me walk fast, but you have to find the mole, and he says these will make you walk fast, and then you can use them.
Well, in Bottles you're referring to, the first thing Kazooie calls him is Goggle Boy, and then calls him Geeky. It's within 2 sentences.
Yeah,
it's like she's not got off into a good footing with it.
No, but I think the whole I think that all that the dialogue and stuff it's just like that the whole way through, isn't it? I think that's that must have been that was just Greg and Tim. It was.
Well, I think.
But then I think when we were working as a team, when we worked, obviously there was people like Greg and Tim and Steve Males, and people had worked together for a while, and they'd done Donkey Kong and Battletoads and things. So there was, I think, the rapport people had across the team was, I've always said that I think you can, or my experience anyway, is that when you work with people and you get to know them really well, that's when you can start insulting each other, and the relationship is one where that's kind of healthy. So I guess it kind of came from that, and we, those the kind of comments and names that people have for each other and stuff, that's still going on now, even though people have left the company. And it's like, whatever it is, nearly 20 years ago, isn't it now?
Yeah.
And I still insult Steve every time I see him. I think that just I guess that mirrored perhaps some of what went on in the team and stuff, in terms of just people got on so well that every day was just full of fun and games.
So James asked a stupid question, but got a good answer. I'm going to ask it.
I'm happy with that.
If we go back to the beginning, a lot of people know about Dream. Obviously, it was a game that you guys, well, not you particularly, but the Donkey Kong Country team moved on to make this. I think it was a Zelda-style game. I think at the beginning.
Yeah, it was. Well, when I moved on to it, they had got stuff. They'd got a bit of background stuff going. I think a couple of the characters, the main character Edson was sort of done. I think Kev did the first version, and then Steve took over, and I just kind of went on, and yeah. So it was kind of not isometric. Is that the right way? It kind of scrolled left to right and up and down, but it was the pathways were at an angle. Yeah. So when you ran left, you were actually running down and to the left, and then when you ran right, you ran up and to the right. So it was, I guess it was kind of isometric, or it was like certainly a forced perspective. But yeah, you just kind of on the Super NES, you ran backwards and forwards, and you met people and stuff. But it was when it moved on to the N64 that it started kind of fleshing out into a much bigger game. But certainly when it was on the Super NES, it had a certain kind of Zelda-y feel to it, and it had these, the artwork was just, for the hardware, it was like another level on top of Donkey Kong. It was all rendered, pre-rendered sprites and all that.
Must have been quite frustrating to work on to have gone through all these different stages.
Yeah, but then when you're fresh out of college and you're young and stuff, and the company was obviously doing well, you kind of go, please finish the game, let's finish it. But then you didn't at that point, especially for someone like myself. I hadn't any other experience in that situation, so you just kind of went, right, okay, next thing. We kind of just kept moving until we got to where we wanted to be. I can remember the frustration on the Super NES. I can remember the kind of technical limitations, becoming, from a kind of work level, getting quite frustrating because I can't remember especially, but the sprites, those big characters, had to be made up of tiny kind of squares, certain size blocks that hardware could draw. So there's only so many you could draw on a line, and so if you had too many characters occupying one scan line, bits would start disappearing. So I can remember all that, that kind of limitation. So that was quite a fun thing to do. You just had to use floppy disks. You had to copy stuff from computer to computer with floppies. Very low tech.
Well, I mean, I was watching your video on the Banjo Kazooie making of on Rare Replay, and there's this wonderful moment. They cut it at a very important time. I think you were really keen on a rabbit being the main character, and yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I had Steve going, "Oh, you never told me," and I'm like, come on, it wasn't like that. Yeah, we did. I think I think Edson was running around when it was Dream on the N64. We had Edson running around. That was. I remember that. And then I think when we started kind of going into what I think it was called Kazoo for a while, when we decided it was going to be, this Zelda thing was just so much not necessarily out of our league, but that was another amount of work, kind of magnitude on top of just making a kind of a 3D platformer, because that was all new. You see, it was it's easy. I know watching Greg saying, well, we thought we'd something like a Mario, but because in 1995 or 96, that was a whole brand new thing, and it was just like so. I think that was probably more than enough for us to be doing. But yeah, so I think we swapped from Edson, and I think we just what that character was going to be. So I think I just did a rabbit was one. And I think we made a model, and I think he had a little wooden sword, and he ran backwards and forwards. But he wasn't very good. He wasn't the right character. I could just remember Chris asking me in the little canteen in the barn. If I did I think Banjo, was Banjo, and I just remember kind of I wasn't annoyed or anything like that. I was just kind of like, should be the rabbit, because there was an opportunity. I guess when you're young, it was like whatever. So 96 or 97. It's like, wow, I might get this chance that my character's going to be like the main character. It's like, wow. But he wasn't to be. He wasn't the right character. And then sort of Banjo came along. Yeah, and the rest is history.
Where did the whole? Because obviously, the characters are named after musical instruments. Where did that? And there's a very musical theme, with the notes you've got to collect. Like, where did that all come from?
That must have just been Greg. I'm pretty sure that I know when it was Kazoo, there was a lot of fruit collecting, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it just kind of evolved. I know for a while Tootie was going to be Piccolo, but we couldn't have Piccolo because I think someone had already trademarked it, or there was some legal thing, so we had to come up with a a name that we could trademark, and belong to us. I don't really know. That'd be one from Greg. Because I don't know if it would have been because Banjo seemed like a good name for a bear. Then it all led from that. I can't really remember. It might have just been one of those things that kind of got made up as we went along and just kind of fitted with everything that was being done. So now I need to get Greg on the case.
I remember one thing that you said though, and it's really interesting because Rare Replay is the first Rare game to be #1 since Banjo Kazooie in 1998. And I remember you saying on the video how delighted you were the game got to #1.
Yeah, that was just kind of, I guess that was one of those little icings on the cake things to get. And I've still got it somewhere upstairs in a box. I don't know if it's MCV, but it's one of those weekly. And it was like they used to publish it, and it was like an A3 kind of poster. And I guess they were for people to put up in shop windows or on walls or somewhere. Mm-hmm. And there it was at the top. I was like, oh wow, there we go, we made it. Yeah, but that was just one of those little sort of icing on the cake moments. It was the same. I ramble on endlessly about going to E3 in '97, where the game was first showed, and walking out onto the Nintendo, and the Nintendo booth was just massive. And then there in the middle of it was Mumbo Jumbo, this like 20-foot statue. It's like, God, they take all this a bit serious, don't they?
That must be amazing, coming up with characters like that and then seeing them looming over.
Yeah, it was a bit. I don't know where it ended up. It was, when you're 25 and that's the first thing you've ever done, really, your work-wise, and you kind of go, that's quite good, isn't it? And it just kind of takes your breath away, really, and you just, I don't know if it was Martin Wakely or someone years ago was saying, you kind of, I think it's those moments you realise, even though you're from a day-to-day basis, you're kind of getting on with it and enjoying yourself. That whole thing itself, though, is a massive, expensive machine, and it's like taken very seriously. And you know, it's a big deal, you know, for the publisher and you know all that side of the business. So to see Mambo there in the middle of it all, I was like, wow. Could have been the rabbit. That's all I can say.
It could have been the rabbit.
Wouldn't have worked.
So you mentioned earlier that you're actually you're playing through the original Banjo Kazooie with your kids. Like I mean, given that the game is coming up on 20 years old, like how does it stand up? How are they enjoying it? Because we've obviously been playing it recently, and admittedly I didn't play back in the day, but I did play similar games. So for me, it feels all familiar and it's kind of a nostalgic thing. We kind of think it kind of stands up really well, but that's because we grew up with it. I'm intrigued to know how the new generation finds Banjo Kazooie.
The thing is, one's 10 and one's nearly 7, and they're really. I mean, Minecraft. You know, everyone's obsessed with Minecraft. Yeah. But I mean, my oldest son, he's more into his Laytons and things like that. He likes his kind of puzzly games. So it's so playing like Banjo, they have a go, but they want me to do it. They seem to want to watch. It's like Twitch in real time, you know, like live. It's just like play yourself. But yeah, they love all the running about and the jumping and the solving the problems and stuff like this, you know. And so yeah, I think that you know we're getting through it slowly. So I think in that respect it holds up phenomenally well. On a personal level, I'm sort of playing it, going, "Oh, look at that texture." You know, it's like because you're playing it on. I mean, my telly is not very big really, but you know, you're playing it in kind of high def, but it's not high def. It's kind of, I don't know what the resolution of the N64 was now, but it was not very high, so it's all a bit blurry and stuff. But I think gameplay wise and stuff, I think it's held up really, really well.
Yeah, definitely.
And I love listening, you know, as we were saying about, you know, all the text is a bit sarcastic and cheeky and stuff, but they're hearing all that again and trying to remember all the things Brentilda says. I'm like, right, we need to remember that because at the end we'll get asked what Grunty's favourite socks are or something. It's like you've got to remember all these random bits of information. But yeah, I think it's held up phenomenally well, really.
See, fortunately, I haven't got to the quiz yet. And like I said, I never got that far back in the day. But joyfully, we have the internet now. So I don't have to write these things down. I don't have to remember them.
I think I think we did it with Tui, but I think on Banjo, I think a lot of the stuff wasn't really playable. And that always seemed a bit of a shame to me. Because you'd fight your way through all this stuff. And then you go, I'd love to do that again. And then you can't because there was no facility to...
Yeah, to replay your favourite and reclaim your favourite jiggies.
Yeah, I think could you do it? I think Tui you could do it a bit more. Certainly with things like grab on ghoulies and stuff, which was the next thing we did. You could, you know, and that's kind of again taken for granted now. And I was playing ghoulies as well. And you kind of go, well, they've done all this stuff in Rare Replay where you can go back and sort of like snapshots of gameplay, and that's kind of taken for granted now, isn't it? So it's a good thing that you can just go like, I want to go and play that. I want to go and see that bit again.
It was one of the things I love about Banjo Kazooie. Actually, when we talk about the sort of attitude the game had, in many ways that differentiated it from Super Mario 64 because that was the game everyone compared it to. They were both big 3D platformers at the time. And I was saying earlier, Super Mario 64 for me felt like a fairy tale game, and I was a 13-year-old boy when that came out. I didn't want to play a game where you had to save a princess in a castle and it was all pretty. I wanted to play a game where I did have a sarcastic bird in my backpack and a witch that kept coming up with terrible rhymes and these weird. It was very British humour game. It was.
I think. Yeah, I think so. I think that's very much the case. I don't know how else you'd describe it other than British. It's a bit weird.
Well, Chris Sieville, who when he was making Conquer, said he had a big rivalry with you guys over in the Banjo team. Is that something that you was?
I'm going to be careful now. I'll get beaten up. No, I think where were we? We were still at Manor Farm then on Banjo 1, and so there was the Donkey Kong barn, there was the Banjo barn, which called the Dutch barn. I guess that's because of how it's constructed. And for ages it was just us there, and then we had a stable that had Conquer in, and then the other stable was GoldenEye, which then must have become PD. But yeah, there was yeah, I don't know if it was like a have a fight in the car park rivalry, but there was always this kind of like, that's you and this team doing that work, and the people over there doing that team, making that game. You're two separate things, and you can't access either of those. I can't get into the Conker barn, and they can't get into the Banjo barn. But I can remember seeing Conker and even Conker when it was Conker's, what was it called?
12 Tales.
12 Tales.
Yeah, the first iteration of it, which was, I guess, was a little bit more. Not what's the word? It was more in Banjo-y land and Mario land, and obviously how Chris took it when he took over it. But I can remember going to see that and then walking away and going, "Oh, what the hell are we going to do?" It's. They've sort of jumped over us on this. We've kind of been doing Dream and kind of finding our feet and working through stuff, and then and then I can remember going, and then you'd go and see Donkey Kong 64 and go away going, they can do this clever stuff, we can't. How come they, and so there was this. I think that was really healthy. I think that worked really well for teams, that there was a competitive sort of one-upmanship, I guess. You want to, you've got to outdo what other people are doing, and it worked, and I think that worked. So I worked for, I was in a room with Steve Males for like 11 years. We were us working together, and that was always the same there. I'd look across and see Steve doing some cool thing and go, oh, I don't like mine now. He's done something better, or he's done an animation. You go, oh, that's a great, And I think again, it means you're always pushing the bar up between you, and so you have it on a personal level, you have it on a team level, and of course you have it on a kind of industry level, I guess, where you see a game come out and you go, oh, I wish we'd thought of that, or oh, look how they've made that move, or how this works, and that's a really healthy place to be, I think.
I remember, because we're jumping ahead here, we shouldn't really be talking about other games. Banjo Tooie and Conker's Bad Fur Day in the UK came out like within a month of each other. It was this, at the time I thought it was two big Rare games launching side by side, but on reflection I can see that there was these two big rivals.
Yeah, did they really come out that close? I can't remember now.
Yeah, it was very interesting. It was a very interesting time. And actually, looking back though, to go back to Banjo Kazooie, I always think I love Banjo Tooie, but it was, for me, it got too big, and Donkey Kong 64 was way too big.
Donkey Kong 64 was ridiculous with the amount of characters and moves and weapons.
I had to have a notepad with move this beside it. Banjo Kazooie, in many ways, was so much more focused, and for me, out of all of them, it still remains my favourite. We haven't played Grabbed by the Ghoulies yet. We're looking forward to actually doing that one.
We're loving that here. That is honestly, if any game's aged well, that's that one. And that was a great.
Might have to do that one next then.
Yeah, well, Rare Replay actually have updated it quite nicely, from what I understand. 1080p, 60 frames per second.
Well, honestly, even when it came on 360 on the backwards compatible thing, there, everyone sort of said, "Oh, wow, this is." But it did. We made. This personally, I think we got the look of that just right. I mean, we opted for I guess probably to make my life and Steve's life easy. We said, oh, let's have complicated backgrounds and we'll have really simple characters with nice cell shading. Yeah, that'd be easy. But it worked really well. It had that sort of slightly Disney-esque feel where, obviously backgrounds can be lavish and painted and detailed, whereas characters that have to move, keep them simple, because obviously, when you were hand colouring in cells of animation, you cut stuff to the minimum. So I think that had a good look to it. But that's I'm getting rubbish at games because I'm struggling. I just and the kids, want to play it. They would play Grabbed by the Ghoulies. Can we put Ghoulies on? Can we put Ghoulies on? I was like,
see, Banjo is making me realise how rubbish at games I am/was. Because the amount of times I find out that I've only got 1 or 2 honeycombs left of health, and particularly on the little mini games and challenges, like what's it when you're with, is it Snapper, the little crocodile, and Mr. Vile, and you've got to bite eat as many munches as possible. I keep forgetting you lose health if you don't win, and I didn't realise I was down to 2 things. Damn, I've got to win this, otherwise, no, there it is, game over. And I just. Kind of similar to Perfect Dark, which we talked about on our first episode. It makes you realise kind of how reckless you are, because you don't really, obviously nowadays we're used to regenerative health, more so in shooters than anything else. But I don't realise how low I'm letting my health get. And things like, particularly the cruel thing is, towards the end of the game, where you guys introduce bees around the hives. So the hives that have the honeycomb where you can get health, and it gives you 3 health, there's now swarms of bees around it towards the latter half of the game, which means if you want that health, you have to risk what little remains of your health to get it.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
dash it with Talon Trot, and it's like, oh my god, I really need that health, but do I want to die?
Exactly. It's a gamble. It's yeah. I think on where have we got? I think we've unlocked Bubble Gloop's Swamp, and I think we've unlocked Clanker's Cavern. I think I've started. But yeah, we should go back to that. When poor old N64 though, the kids they jump around in front of the telly and then they knock the power pack on the back is obviously a little bit dodgy, so the thing keeps resetting. I'm like, don't, you're going to frazzle the game or something. And it's my original. It's still got. And honestly, I'm looking at that 51 hours, and that must have been me. Someone played it for 50. I'm like, what?
Jesus.
How can you play? How rubbish are you?
I kept playing for ages and ages. Oh, I was really rubbish. I can't remember.
On most of those 50 hours spent trying to get that ice key.
That's right. It's,
I think I spent must have been a good couple of hours just standing in because I love the music and that. Banjo Kazooie's music.
The music is brilliant.
It's the people who are doing that vinyl listening, send me one. Because I love that. I love the music in the game so much. But it was the, I think the Talon Trot you refer to is probably one of the most satisfying running moves. I don't know I can never explain it to people.
it's the
I just want to do it now. I
always like the double jumps and stuff. I think Grant's on one of those videos, isn't he? Saying it's just fun to run about, and I think, but it's the same. I think the same's true of Mario and things. That's those kind of games when the control is spot on. There's fun in getting from A to B. It's just there's something nice about it, and it's satisfying.
The only bit that annoys me, like move wise, and this is purely my own incompetency, is I need to learn that whenever I'm stuck, I just need to shoot eggs. Because I've struggled with this. So I came. Where were we? Towards the middle of the lair, you've got cobwebs. I thought, there'll be some sort of fire thing that I can burn through the web. No, you just shoot eggs. There was the moving basket around the snake in Gobi Valley, which I had to somehow get the snake to rise to the ceiling. You just shoot eggs. There were the padlocks on the gates in Mad Monster House, or Mad Monster Mansion, sorry. I thought, there'll be a key somewhere. No, you just shoot eggs. I need to remember this.
Yeah. Gobi's Valley, one of my finest creations.
That was an absolutely brilliant level. I loved that level.
I just get the piss taken out of me, even to this day, that it looked rubbish. That's usually from Grant.
I prefer it to the Donkey Kong 64 desert level. Because the platformers did have you had to have an ice level and a desert level and a swamp level.
That was right. You knew where you were, and it just opened up loads of opportunities. I guess it's dreadfully cliche, but it opens up really good and clear avenues of sort of things to do and stuff to include, doesn't it? You go, well, we're going to find live. All right, we're going to have lava and
I guess it gives you your chance to put your own spin on that genre of level.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely love that level. Like I said, I'm playing through for the first time, almost the first time. It's certainly the first time I've got past Bubble Gloop Swamp, and I'm loving it. I'm still determined to get to the end. I've actually, my wife is now actually watching me. We'll be sitting at home, debating what to do. And she's like, well, why don't you play that bear game? Because she likes watching me. She likes watching me for 2 reasons. She likes pointing out the things that I've quite obviously missed, like shooting eggs. And she likes seeing me panic when things chase me. So things like when you're a pumpkin and a giant gravestone is chasing you and it's fast, I'm like, run! The worst one's probably, is it Snacker, the shark? And you've got that... Leave me alone!
I remember for ages that a great guy, a programmer called Graham Smith, who still lives in Tamworth, I see quite regularly. He did the code for him, and I can remember the bugs because getting him to stay in the water was always I think it was always a bit of a tricky thing. So you'd often get him chase you up the beach and up trees and stuff, and it was so fun. From a game, probably not really funny, but from a game developer point of view, it was funny. But I think we kept. Do I keep when I'm playing it now? Going. Please let him come out of the water because then I can tell Graham that he can still do it.
No, I'm very interested because obviously Donkey Kong Country, I know the team worked on beforehand. That was very much a 2D platformer like Mario. Diddy Kong Racing was very much a Mario Kart type game. Banjo Kazooie was a Mario 64 style game. I remember at the time thinking Rare make Nintendo games and put their own spin on it. But did you guys ever view it like that? I mean, Dream was supposed to be a Zelda-esque game. I mean, was it guys you thought, oh, we'll see what Nintendo do and do our own take on it? Was that ever things that ever went through your mind?
I don't know. I don't think it was ever quite from my viewpoint of being involved in stuff. I don't remember it ever being a kind of deliberate thing or anything like that. I think they were the kind of games that got people excited, and I think that, if there's something you see, you think, well, this is exactly the sort of game I enjoy playing, and I can instantly see how we could perhaps do this instead, or there's an opportunity for us to do something different. And I think that seems to me like a reasonably good way of looking at stuff. I don't know if it was ever quite so deliberate, in that it kind of going, Mario's good, let's make Mario. I think with Dream, I guess, I mean, when I joined that team, the kind of script, there was this massive script and story that Tim and Greg had put together that was very involved. It had all the all the dialogue and it had all the gameplay elements. I think when when it was sort of realised that that was just such a massive job for that amount of people and stuff. What is it that we're strongest at? It's like, well, we've done Donkey Kong Country, and that's that worked really well. Well, where's that kind of thing going? I guess it had morphed into Mario 64 and that kind of frontier of, well, how can you do that sort of game but in 3 dimensions? And I guess we just kind of went from there. So as soon as you start paring back the kind of scope of trying to build a massive RPG and say, actually, look, it's a game that's constructed with levels and platforming stuff and a hub world and all this kind of malarkey, it becomes a much more manageable thing to kind of comprehend doing. But even then, I think the original Banjo was still going to be much bigger, I think, than what we did, because again, stuff just takes long, and we did that game in 18 months, I think.
Yeah, it's unheard of today.
Which is crazy. Now you look at it.
You look how long they're going to take on Ukulele. That's another.
So that's not out for another 2 years, is it?
It's out next week.
They've got millions of pounds. They can do anything. Yeah. So they'll. It's a big job. I think and I think there was 12 of us, something like that. I'm looking at. I've got my Banjo Kazooie thingy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, so it was 12, 14 people. But then you can, stuff took a while to do, but at the same time it was quite simple. Making a character or stuff. Was quite a straight. Once you were up and running, it was quite a straightforward thing to get through. Backgrounds. I did that Gobi's Valley.
What was your proudest thing about Banjo Kazooie?
Hey?
What was your proudest creation in Banjo Kazooie?
Other than the rabbit.
Other than a poor rabbit. Okay, Greg, you must have a picture of it somewhere. I don't think I have. I've been looking. I don't know. It was probably Mumbo, because he stood the test of time, and everyone seems to love the Jinjos. But just I guess those kind of things, like individual bits and pieces you actually make, and you think that was great fun making those. And it's such an opportunity to have something that you built actually last at that sort of time. But my fondest sort of memories and stuff are just a team working so well, and just having that kind of, I don't know what the word is, power, autonomy, or whatever, where it just all seemed to gel. Once we were on that track and we knew exactly what we were making, it just all seemed to work. And I think that's when you realise, I think on the end, after Banjo, I think it was Banjo 1, thinking, it's great finishing it and everything, it's wonderful to have a finished game, but then you kind of look back and go, it was I kind of miss now that kind of the journey needed to get there, and you kind of look back and go, well, I can't repeat, that's unrepeatable. No matter what you do next, you can't repeat that sort of 18 months of fun you've had, even though we tried.
Well,
No, but it's different. Do you know what I mean? I remember it's I think I only did it at the end of what was it? What was the? Oh God, what's the TV show called? Only Fools and Horses, when they finally get the £1 million and stuff at the end. I like to call it the proper ending.
Yes.
He kind of Del Boy then kind of says that he realises actually the thing he missed is actually the kind of day-to-day running about trying to make a buck and stuff. So I guess it was a similar thing to that, where you think, well, it was all the long nights and the weekends and all this stuff. That's kind of gone. You can't recreate that.
I guess the best thing therefore about Banjo Kazooie was perhaps the bit we all didn't get to see, which was making it.
Yeah.
Well, we're out of questions, I believe.
We're out of questions. I think we're also out of time. So Ed, thank you so much for joining us. This has been absolutely brilliant.
That's no problem at all. It's been really lovely.
So, James, next week.
I think it's got to be grabbed, isn't it?
Grabbed by the Ghoulies.
It's got to be grabbed by
Neither
the
of us
Ghoulies.
have played this game.
No.
We can't. You're not going to be able to say the words "back in the day" in this next one.
I'm not, no.
All right, here we go.
I'm not going to
Grabbed by the Ghoulies.
All of my complaints will be brand new.
I wonder if we can get Ed back on. We'll ask him. Well, he's gone now. Right.
Yeah. Right. Your job. Track down Ed again. And yes, grabbed by the Ghoulies, maybe. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned to Rare Replayed.
RareReplayed.com for all updates and informations. Before we set up a Twitter account and email and all those other things that modern social media and podcasts need.
Yeah.
So, see you next week.
See you next week. If we do it next week. See you next time.
Thanks for clarifying. That was good.